Welcome to the final episode of Season 1 with Design Explorers. This episode, we've got a special one where we don't necessarily have a guest, since Nahum and I are the guest ourselves, and we'll be sharing some of our personal experiences of starting this show and the struggles and challenges that came with it. On top of that, we have some news about our future plans for the podcast for the next season and year. But before we dive deep into the conversations, we just have a quick announcement to make where we have created an email address for this podcast where you, the listeners, can reach out to us, share any suggestions or ideas that you may have for the show, or if you want to simply say hi and share your experiences of listening and what you've learned, you can do any of that and reach out to us at designexplorers@agoda.com. So that's explorers with an S at the end. And we'd love to hear from you. With that announcement made, please enjoy the final episode of Season 1.
Hello and welcome to the Design Explorers, a podcast by the Agoda design team. Agoda.com is the global digital travel platform where you can book hotels, vacation rentals, flights, and airport transfer. In this podcast, we will be sharing the awesome work of our design team, discuss interesting trends in relation to design and travel, and talk about product design in general. My name is Nahum Yuki and I will be your host for the show. So, Yuki, it's been almost a year now for our podcast. This is the 10th episode.
Yeah, how has it been for you?
Oh wow, it's quite a journey. It was interesting. I've learned a lot, experienced a lot. And you joined us when around episode 8, 7?
Episode 7, actually, with Anita and Ark.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was my first episode that I participated in the podcast as a co-host. But before that, I was helping out, I guess, in the back end with all the brainstorming sessions with Anita and Ark and other previous episodes as well. So, yeah, I mean, it hasn't been as long as a year for me, but I'm sure... it's been a year for you, and I think there has been a lot that happened, and we would like to go over some of them today. So hopefully we can get a lot out from you, if that's all right.
So let's go back in time to October. Yeah, it was around October 2020, I think.
Wow, it feels like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now we're entering 2022, but yeah, October 2020, how did you kind of get started with this podcast? Where did this idea come from?
So that was around when I just got the idea. So it started actually very selfishly, this idea. We were sharing our design work and talks usually in our whole hands meeting. And I always felt a bit intimidated in that meeting. And I felt like it's not my natural way of having a conversation about my work. So I was looking for other alternatives to talk about design work, talk about what we were doing, and back then we were working remotely and podcast was catching, it became very popular because of the
everyone
pandemic.
was doing it.
Everyone doing now as well, podcast. So, I connect these two ideas in my head and I was like, yeah, why don't we have like our own design team podcast, And I was discussing this with Devin and Joshua back then before we talked with Dinin. And they were really, really supportive. They liked the idea. And then, I was like, okay, I shared my idea. That's it. My work is done here.
Your work is done. Hopefully someone will catch
up and then.
Yeah.
But then 2 weeks later, Joshua came to me in one of our one-on-one and he said, you know what? I mentioned your idea to Dinin, who was the head of design back then. And he really liked it. So maybe you can come up with a plan for how we're going to do that.
Yeah.
And I was okay.
Now you actually have to.
And I was like, I have to do that now. It's not just an idea. It's something that I actually have to do.
Yes.
So I sat down and I wrote some sort of plan. And in my plan, the podcast was supposed to be with rotating co-hosts. And we will do one episode as a pilot and see how it goes.
Wow.
So
okay.
I pitched that idea to Dinin. I sent this to him and Joshua back then. He came back for a couple of days and he was saying, I like the idea, but I want to have a few changes. I said, okay. And then he said, we're going to do 3 episodes, not just one.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna be the host. I don't want to do co-hosting. I don't want to do rotating hosting because it's gonna take too much time and it's too much trouble. So
Okay.
he took this goal and he made it a stretch goal. Like looking back, I understand it now.
Yeah.
But I was starting to panic from this idea, because what do I know about hosting? And now I need to produce 3 episodes and I need to host them and take care of everything.
Okay. So before Denon actually proposed that you would be like the co-host, you never saw yourself or considered yourself to be leading this at all?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I was, I in my mind, I was, okay, I have some experience with audio.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for this platform for somewhere that I can share my
Oh, wow.
my talk and work. But I never thought about this going to be my thing now. Like, and I have to take care of it and lead it and host it. What do I know about hosting?
So like, because you were the audio guy, when you were interested in music and doing all of these things, you were considering yourself to be that backstage person. Maybe you can help out with all the technicalities and things like that. Okay.
Planning it, thinking about it, but not really taking the whole thing, like the ownership on that.
And then what happened after Denon suggested that?
So I said, okay, I didn't, like, all the thought I had in my head, I didn't tell him, like, I can't do it. I just, okay, I will work on the plan and we're going to do that. And it was back then, just before everyone, very close to this time of the year, like the end of the year, holiday, everyone go for holiday. So I had, we went out for a holiday and then I was like, I didn't think much about it, but I was like worried. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't do anything, but it was in the back of my mind. I need to do something in January when we come back to the office. I need to make it happen because I'm committed. I have to say something.
Give us a plan, yeah.
And then in this period of time of the holidays, imposter syndrome start to kick in. And you're questioning yourself, what have I done? Like, should I actually do that? Or maybe I just call off on everything and say, I'm going to cancel the idea and let someone else do that.
Yeah.
But then I kind of pushed myself to at least make a small move, like do something. So, I was thinking, okay, we got to do a podcast, but I don't have a studio. Like, I don't have a place to record. We need something. And I know the office have a studio that other teams are using. So the least amount of the most smaller action I could do is like post back then in our communication in Teams channel. I was posting, hey, there's a studio in the office. Who do I need to talk to get to use it? And then someone replied, and I got the contact. And Joshua and me schedule a meeting with those people that are on the studio, they're responsible for the studio. And things started to feel real now.
Yeah.
So we booked that studio, but I still didn't feel confident. And still having this imposter syndrome, can I really host that, all that stuff? But we booked that meeting and we came to the office specially just to check out the studio to see how it goes. So we came here and we've been super excited because we didn't even know we had such a very nice studio here, right?
Yeah.
With the acoustic and everything. And then we saw all the equipment and things started to feel like real.
Yes.
And I got excited. Yeah. So I got a bit more confident. But then, we're still working remotely and I go back home and again, imposter syndrome kicks in again. And do I really want to do that? Like, am I confident? And this imposter syndrome feelings come back again. So I thought to myself, I need to practice before I actually go and record with someone else. So I have some equipment, but I didn't have a microphone. So I ordered one, a microphone back then. And I was excited. I got it after a couple of days. I did some recording and I hated my voice. And
As always?
It's made me feel even worse. Wow. It made me feel even more, like, less confident about doing this. And it's challenging, right? You have to fight all this feelings. So I was trying to think, how can I build my confidence back again? So I asked myself, what are my skills? What are the things that I am confident doing? And one of them was my hobby, making music. So I thought, okay, I will focus on that. I will do the intro music for the podcast. And working on that, because I know what I'm doing, because I'm familiar with the work, that was easier for me. and help build my confidence back again.
Mhm.
So I did this short music in the beginning. I record my voice again. I didn't like it. I still hated it.
As always,
But it kind of worked. And then I sent that to Joshua and Denon. And to my surprise, they really liked it. There was like a very short intro, the very early version of the intro. And they liked it. And then I felt a bit more confident now because, I was doing something and then things in motion, things working, I'm taking the small actions.
Mhm.
And then we started to schedule and look for all the candidates, all the guests from our team that want to participate. And then we kind of started to work on the first episode that talked about data and design with Joshua and Javier.
Yeah, how did that discussion kind of pan out? Because you initially started with that recording an intro. Is it just the music of the episode, or you actually recorded like the voice introducing like the topic of discussion and conversation?
It was a very short music intro just to introduce the podcast itself, not even talking about the episode.
Oh, I see.
It's the same intro you hear right now.
Oh, is it the same recording?
Not the same recording. I iterated on that a bit, but kind of similar. Introducing Design Explorer, Design Team podcast.
Yeah.
So that what we had. That's the only thing we had so far, right?
Uh-huh.
So I started to ask around who wants to be in the podcast, and a few people were very excited.
Uh-huh.
I picked up Joshua and Javier in the beginning because I already had a discussion with Joshua about all this. And him being my direct manager, it was easier for me to have them as guests in the beginning.
Yeah.
And also the subject was very super interesting because they started this initiative of designer working with data and digging into data. So we scheduled the brainstorm session, the first brainstorm session.
Yeah.
And we wanted to figure out how we're going to do the podcast, how it's going to be in the session. And we were very mechanical about it. We were like writing a script and we put some, time for each one to talk. You're going to talk here.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It was like we were doing some movie or something. We did a couple of recording and then it sounded too robotic, too mechanical. So we said, no one's going to listen to that. It's too dry.
Yeah.
So we said, we know that the material, we know what we want to talk about. Let's just open mic, have some bullet points, and just talk. Just ask question, kind of have a construction. We still had some script.
Yeah.
Because, also we work for a corporate, so we need to make sure everything said is right. So, but yeah, so we had that bullet points. It took us, I think, maybe 5 or 6 recording sessions.
Sessions?
Yes.
Wow, not even attempt sessions.
Not even attempt session.
Oh God.
And a lot of cutting and editing from my side. But we did it, and the result was quite satisfying, especially the first day of the launch and publishing it. And in meanwhile, we also work on the graphics and stuff like that. So everything started to build up.
I see.
And I'm still not 100 confident about what we're doing here, and I'm still having this imposter syndrome feeling. But the small action, this whole journey moving in motion, that helped me a lot.
I mean, I think to a lot of people who are extroverted or who are naturally talented or willing to kind of speak up their own mind and take actions towards doing a podcast, I think people do, like with the trend back in 2020 when everyone was starting a podcast, they might because all the technology was available with cloud and stuff like that, right? And everyone was doing it and it sounded easy, but listening to how you initiated all of this, it's a lot more work than you thought. Or I guess even I myself would look back and said, before listening to your story, I would assume this is click a few buttons, sign up, register to an account and just press record. But I guess, especially with what we have today, with all the corporate stuff that we have to deal with and all the graphics as well, you had to juggle a lot of things and address your own imposter syndrome as well. So I think there's a lot in there that I felt as well when joining, especially with when you mentioned like initially you were thinking of being like the back end person, just working on tweaking some things. You were saying or sharing this idea, hoping someone else would kind of catch it and initiate it, thinking that there's someone else better in the team who can do it, right? And so I had that too. And when I was coming in, I was hoping to get myself more involved with, I guess, the design community here in Thailand, as well as just in Agoda itself, because I was new to the team, right? And I was thinking, hey, I could just help with the script, and maybe if there's annotations or stuff that I needed to do, or like the back end social media stuff, I was willing to do that because I wanted to get involved, right? But then slowly, I think when talking to you, helping, like I think episode 6, I was helping the guests kind of discuss the topics and stuff like that. And I slowly got more and more involved. And I think you said at the end of it, like, hey, why don't you become a co-host? And I think I was a little hesitant. So I said, I'll think about it. And you kind of gave me like, oh, we can start sometime like next year. And then suddenly I think
I pushed you to the water.
yeah. I was like, okay with that. Okay, I have a few months to think about it. I think by the time that happens, I think I know the rest of the team already. And I would be more comfortable interviewing the guests, I guess. And so at that point, I it gave myself time to think. But then once you kind of pitched like, hey, next episode 7 is coming up. You were helping with the guests last time, but do you want to be a co-host? And I was like, hey, that's coming up in a few weeks. That's not what we agreed to. But I think, that's kind of like the didn't moment that you had.
Yeah.
I had the same with you, where you suggested something that I didn't even consider. But I think in retrospective, it made a lot of sense, right? Like, why would I wait 3 months to kind of start? And so looking back, I think I had a similar journey. I guess it's not as intensive or long as yours, but it's been fun since we're both like introvert, or we don't expect it. Within ourselves, we're kind of the last person who would expect us to be in this position. So I think it's been a fun journey, and I'm really appreciative of this opportunity so far.
So I'm very happy and glad to hear that. And I've recognized that you're gonna be a perfect fit from the beginning when we started to talk. Even when you just joined Agoda, even from your transition from a 2-hour team to design team, and talking with you, there was a good chemistry, and I felt like you're really well articulate, and you have some really good opinion and thoughts. So it was a perfect fit for as a co-host.
Interesting, because I would still doubt that myself. Like, even as you said, I'm articulate or I have interesting opinions. I don't think myself as that. I don't think I have good opinions. I'm just regurgitating what I've read online or heard from other people. And yeah, I'm just trying to do my best. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of the times in the past, I do regret opportunities that I don't take up. And so I think a lot of the times I just close my eyes and hope for the best and see what happens. But yeah, you've been really supportive and walking me through and slowly, initiating this process and welcoming me. And I've justified that I belong here sometime after joining. So I think it's been fun so far. And I think during my first episode with Anita and Irk, I didn't have my mic. Listening back, just before this today, I was listening back to my first episode. I realized my mic was terrible, right? Like it was just a normal mic that I just used to work with. Right. Audio quality didn't matter at that point, right? And even then, I think I had that imposter syndrome too. Like, hey, everyone, you had this amazing mic. We had the studio that we were supposed to record in, and I'm just using my headphone microphone as the recording instrument. And I was like, hey, is this going to work out at all? And so I think that was an exciting time, and I just went with it. And I think Anita and Irk, we were discussing about the workflow process, and it was really relevant to what I was going to go through during my onboarding when joining the design team. Back then, I wasn't even a designer at Agoda. I was still an intern in a different department, so I didn't meet any of the designers yet. And I think what Anita and Eric was working on was the workflow process. So it was something that I was going to be onboarded to. And it really helped me anticipate what was coming up. And having met Anita and Eric, which I eventually will be or have began working with Eric, really helped me kind of get onto it.
How did you feel about the results of that episode after listening to it?
To be honest,
Sure.
I didn't listen to the recording myself right after. I think we had that review process, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when it's got published for the first time.
Yeah. I think, I guess after it got published, I still didn't listen to it because at that point, I hated my voice. As you like, I didn't want to listen to it. I was really nitpicky with all the words that I was using and I guess the ums and the filler words that I was using. And so I think, I didn't listen for it. I didn't listen to it for a while. But then I think eventually I pushed myself like, there's no way that I'm going to get through without listening ever. And only listening is going to help improve me, right? With the feedback loop. I can evaluate myself and not rely on others to kind of give me the feedback and then really hone in on the details. And so I started listening to it. And what really helped was listening to it fast, because I think it helps with the content in terms of what did I say and whether it makes sense or not. And all the filler words and all the small details that I was nitpicking and pushing myself down for, I think it kind of got neglected as I sped the recording up. And it really helped me kind of evaluate how I would listen to other podcasts, because I do listen to other podcasts in like 2x or 2.5, right? And so I think it really helped kind of slowly evaluate myself. And from there, I think I've been really able to identify like, I use the fillers a lot. Even though today I do notice that I use it a lot even today. But
evaluate yourself and also evaluate the podcast as a whole, because I remember that after you were listening to the episode, you were coming back with some really good points and changes that we did in the following episode.
Hopefully, yeah. I think every single episode we did, we tweaked something at least. We were iterating, and I think that was a healthy conversation that we had every time. And you were really open about that too, right? We were discussing like how do we like it? What is there to change depending on the guests? Do we have to change the format and the structure? And I think so. Even now, I don't see a pattern in terms of how we record each episode.
We're still learning on the way.
Yeah. It's been different every single episode so far, at least for myself. So there has been a lot of learning that I've gotten out of this with you. And I hope to that as well. And I think in terms of the most previous or most recent episode that happened, that was with Alex and Fendi, right? So with the Figma migration project. At that point, I've already worked with Alex daily for 2 or 3 months, right? And I was really comfortable with the way he talks, and I guess the topic that he was going to talk to, because I did talk to him about that earlier, right? And I really enjoyed the episode because I was able to dig in deeper in terms of like why all of this happened. I think this gave me the platform to have the conversations that we've never really spent 30 minutes on. And so I think that was fun. But how did you kind of find the episode with Alex and Fendi?
It was interesting to hear their process, when you're thinking about switching a software application for the whole team. It sounds like, okay, we're just going to change. But a lot goes into that, not just in the execution or technical stuff. It's also about how you need to talk with all the stakeholders and all different people with opinions, and how you need to manage all that. So it was interesting to hear how they handle that from their perspective, especially for something like that took them, I think, a year, they say, or 6 months, almost a year, right?
A year, a whole year.
Which is a big project, and it's I kind of felt where I felt like resonating with what we're saying is that working on this podcast, it's kind of the same amount of time, And also through this work you're getting, even though it doesn't affect the work of so many people at the same time, but you also get people telling you different opinion, different directions. But sometimes you have to go with what you believe. You need to be open-minded for sure. But you need to believe in what you want to do and seeing it to the completion.
Yeah.
Which is what I took from their this project of them working on the migration.
I think I really do see a lot of resemblance with the Figma migration project, and all the other episodes. There were a lot of iteration and learning happening along the way, and I think it would be even false or a lie to say that anyone knows what they're doing at Agoda in the first try, right? I think it's natural for us to kind of experiment throughout.
Yeah.
And everyone kind of agrees that, hey, this is the pilot. Hey, this is the beginning, just the beginning. We're going to change and nothing's solidified yet. And then I think everyone has been comfortable and has taken that approach in any project that they have done. And so I really find that interesting and a healthy mentality to learn and grow as a team and organization. So I've been really appreciative of that.
Yeah, that is so true. I think we have the support almost to fail here. Like trying things, experimenting, encouraged to fail. Not only in the way we do experimentation in the code, whatever, but even in our culture. People can take initiative. They can fail. They can try again. Yeah. All right, Yuki. So should we talk a bit about what are we planning for the next season?
Let's do it. Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about this for quite a while, right? And I think for next season, we're going to switch things up a little bit. This first season, it was just to experiment and try. I think we've got the hang of all the technicalities and things that we have to prepare for in terms of like structure and
we're slightly more confident with the microphone.
Slightly, yeah. Listening to ourselves and stuff like that, as well as all the process and procedures after post production. So I think all of that has been good. And for next season, we're thinking of inviting more of our Agoda leadership and talk about where our team is going as an organization and department, as well as I think there are other projects that I'm really interested in. I think Jeremy has guilds. As well as like TDC, I think Thammasat Design Center. I think all those partnerships that we have with them, I'm really interested in learning since some of the new joiners, right, they came from that program, TDC. And so I'm really interested in hearing whoever piloted, because at this point, I don't even know. So I want to shed light on that. And as well as external guests.
Yeah.
Right? I think there's a lot from that. We're trying to expand beyond Agoda ourselves. And there are a lot of interesting people that we meet from conferences and so on. So we're really excited to invite a couple of guests over next season and talk about their work and how they might fit in relation to our work at Agoda as well. So yeah, really exciting stuff coming up. Anything else from your side?
Very exciting stuff. No, I think you pretty much said it all. I'm very excited to have external guests and see how it's gonna work. Because I think this is opportunity for us as the designers at Agoda to establish our connection with the design community. So that will be interesting. Do you want to mention? So we have the email.
Yeah, we do have a new email. I guess that's one of our things that we have established in season 1. But from now on, we would like to get more in touch with our audience and who you are as much as us. We would like to learn more about yourselves. So if you're interested in connecting with us, have ideas or suggestions on what we should talk about, or just feedback in general, or even if you want to say hi, you can reach out to us at designexplorers@agoda.com. So that's explorers with an S at the end. And so, yeah, reach out to us there and connect with us.
Yeah, and if you want to join our team as designer, right? We're always looking for new designers. So you could head up to careers@agoda.com.
Yeah, we are hiring a lot.
Yeah, and that's the end of season 1, and we're looking forward to see you in our next season.
Yes, we are looking forward to that. And yeah, let's stay in touch.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast,
Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you are listening, and share it with your friends and colleagues. Don't forget to subscribe to our show to get notified when we are releasing a new episode. And if you want to learn more about the work of the design team at Agoda, visit agoda.design. Thanks again for listening and hope to see you in our next episode.